In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
We have long dreamed about it. We've discussed it at length. But now the playoff is finally set in college football, and we're going to dive into it on this week's show. Welcome on into the No Off Days podcast. He is Chris Cato. BK is in the booth. I am Scott Smith. So we're going to dedicate like an entire block to you and I just debating, punching each other verbally over what this should look like and how they messed it all up. But just your overall reaction on the fact that it's finally here.
Yeah, I want to say everything under this umbrella is that I'm glad we're here. And this is something that I know I was later getting on board than you, but that was years ago. I'm so glad that we're finally here with this 12-team playoff. That being said, I wish it looked a little different, but I'm happy that it's on our doorstep.
I wish you looked a little different. You're not wearing a T-shirt. Let's welcome in BK. Brian, you and I had our own, as we normally do, each week, the day before the podcast. Brian and I are debating some inane topic, and it was the playoff. So I hope that you can maybe join us and give us your thoughts, because you were quite passionate the other day.
Well, yeah, we won't throw things this time.
Oh, come on. Don't hold back.
No, yeah, a little passionate. I mean, I was excited about the playoff, and now once we see the brackets and how they laid out, I'm kind of let down. I was looking forward to the opening round games, and quite honestly, other than maybe Tennessee, Ohio State, I'm not really looking forward to anything.
Oh my God. I'm still excited about it.
Now, I'm going to this is a direct quote from Brian King. We were better off last year.
No, Brian.
That's a quote.
Is that true? Did you say that, Brian?
No, the whole purpose of what I was trying to get across, the 14 playoff last year, we had there was Georgia being left out. Yeah, that kind of stunk. But the 4 teams that were in there, there's no doubt that those 4 teams deserve to be in
Brian,
there.
Florida State being left out last year stunk too. That stunk.
That did stink, yes. So, hey, let's open up to a 12-team playoff, and we'll get teams in there that could win the national title. I don't think there's 4 teams in this thing that could win the national title.
Really?
So, I do. I think we've got the most parity we've had in a long time. Yeah. I mean, I think, there are probably 8 in there that could.
Well, 3 of the 4 teams that could win the national title are in the same bracket, which is another problem with this whole thing. So, I mean,
I just feel feel like there's been a lot of people. I don't want to throw Brian in with these, but a lot of people are griping about this, and I just want us to be excited that we have it. And it's not perfect. College football always messes up its postseason. That's what it's known for, never getting it right, but we're getting closer to getting it right.
I agree with that sentiment, but please don't steal the fire that I'm about to bring in this next segment. Also, I have to I made a mistake earlier this week. And I said something that I should not have said.
Yes.
And so at some point during this show, we're going to carve a little time out, and I'm going to try to make things right.
Please apologize to my mom in person.
No, Cookie and I love each other, okay? That's just that. It's that simple.
You're never getting any of her strawberry pretzel salad.
Okay, so more on that coming up on the other side. BK, can you tell us what else we have on today's program?
Well, there's not been a bowl game in Tampa without this one guy. Mike Schulze is going to be on the show, talk a little bit about the ReliaQuest Bowl. A great matchup, 2 storied franchises, 2 storied programs that are Alabama and Michigan playing in this thing.
Yeah.
I've been to one of these matchups before. It was Stallings' last game, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Then we'll have a later guest picker, repeat offender. It's going to be Dave Ross coming in from the VSiN Network. Is that what it is?
VSiN, yeah. VSiN.
Yeah, Lombardi Line show on early mornings its own, so we'll get him in.
Great.
Very good.
Dave's
and
a good picker.
At the end of the program.
You love that movie, Christmas Vacation. Cato wore a shirt the other day.
Yeah.
Scott, you've been a costume.
Wish I'd worn it again today.
I wore Uncle Eddie.
Thought we'd do a little rapid fire quiz to you guys, see just how well you know this movie with some trivia questions.
Oh, we're going to back it up.
Yeah.
You wear the T-shirt, you got to back it up,
When was the last time you watched it, Chris?
It's been a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you, Scott? When's the last time you watched it?
I usually try to watch it every year, so it hasn't been a couple years. So
been a couple weeks.
But my memory is very bad.
I will say that I ran the questions by Chris back here, and he nailed them all. So
really?
I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about it now.
Okay.
So.
All right. I'm looking forward to this. All right. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
BK. If you're listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/NODPOD. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, take out your phone. You can zap the QR code on the screen, and there it will take you to all of our shows. Please subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. fox13news.com/NODPOD. NODPOD. All right, here we go. College football playoff bracket is now released, and you have your 4 games right out of the gates: Tennessee, Ohio State, Clemson, Texas, Indiana, Notre Dame, and SMU, Penn State. Of those 4, your favorite matchup is?
Tennessee, Ohio State.
Yeah,
that's
I
easy.
think that's pretty clear.
In the horseshoe.
Okay.
Cold weather.
You're Mr. Optimistic here. But if you had to say, like, did they get the right 12 at least? In your opinion, did they get the right 12?
Yes, and I'm an Alabama fan, and I say that.
Yeah.
I think you cannot tell SMU, sorry, you got to play in your conference championship game and play down to the wire, lose on a walk-off field goal, and then tell them they're not getting in when Alabama is sitting there where they got blown out a few weeks ago at Oklahoma by 21 points. So I think – sorry, SEC fans, Ole Miss, South Carolina. I think they got the right 12.
But to do that, you have to basically suspend any type of judgment about the result of the championship game, right? Or are you taking into account the result of the championship game?
Here's the weird thing. I think if SMU gets blown out, the way that game was going in the first half, all us Bama fans are sitting there saying, yes, go Clemson, blow them out. Because if it's an ugly loss, I think they would punish them for the result of that championship game.
Okay. Very good. So the fact that they came back and made it close.
Right. They fought hard.
Obviously, the strength of schedule. I mean, we always, when BK and I are discussing this and yelling at each other in the back of the sports office, I mean, it comes down to a handful of factors. Obviously, there's quality wins, bad losses, there's strength of schedule. There is a bit of an eye test that people follow, too, that you put some level of stock into, but everybody's eye test is a little bit different. The quality of the competition is a varying degree. But when you look at Alabama's schedule and who they had to play this year, I do think that they're one of the more dangerous teams in the country. And obviously the fact that they didn't get in, we'll never know what the result could be. But there's this variable of, like, what do they deserve? Like, does a team deserve an opportunity? And I know we don't like to say that because we want this to be an ultimate meritocracy, but like there is a bit of that, and you have to have that as part of your equation. Because they don't play the same schedule. They don't play in the same conference. So we're dealing with totally different teams, and that's why the wider net playoff bracket is good, because now it's giving us the opportunity to say, okay, I told you so. I told you the SEC was better than the Big Ten, or whatever it is, and that's the opportunity. So I was good with the 12 teams. I think it's right. I don't want to split hairs over it. If it were me personally, I'd probably slide in an Ole Miss or a Bama instead of SMU and just take the heat from that.
Right.
I think the ACC lobby was pushing hard the last week. But I would take issue with the order, and I think that what you ought to do, honestly, I get it. We're rewarding the teams that win the top 4 ranked teams that win their conference, and we want to give them the bye. I'm good with buys. But I think when you got Boise State and Arizona State in that company, it just feels like you're missing it. It feels like you're kind of missing the boat a little bit, and maybe this year is just an anomaly, but it is year 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they change that and make it just your top 4 ranked teams regardless of anything.
I
There's
think that's
no
what
qualifier.
They'll do. And I think that could happen as soon as next year.
Yeah, because once you get through your buys, then I don't really care so much about the number that's in front of your team name, the ranking. I say throw that out, and let's get fair brackets and good matchups and try to see if we can make that all happen. I don't know that we saw the best. I liked the matchups that I saw the previous week a little bit better. And honestly, yes, I am an Oregon fan, but how does the number 1 team, the only team without a loss in the nation, how do they get the Ohio State-Tennessee draw? Like, that, to me, is the toughest.
Yes.
I get it that they're 8-9, but, again, the number is whatever. It's arbitrary to a certain extent, right?
Well, and it's going to happen every year if you do it this way, because that 8 and 9 is always going to be either a Big Ten or an SEC team that played really well.
Yeah, got some quality wins, but maybe a bad loss or two.
To your point, Oregon, I think, has the toughest. Oregon, who went undefeated and won its conference championship, the only team to go undefeated, has what I believe is the toughest path to the semifinal out of those 4. And then you have Penn State. This is really hard to swallow for me. Penn State, who lost to Oregon and who only has 1 win over a team ranked in the top 25, that being Illinois, who lost kind of decisively to Ohio State. They're sitting there at 6, and they get a home game against SMU. And if they win that, which they likely will, they're favored by 10 points at this time, they get to go on the road and go to a bowl game and play Boise State. So I don't know. There's some inherent unfairness here, and it's just because the committee was a prison of this structure where you had to award buys to the conference champions. Give the buys to the 4 best teams.
But even outside of the structure that they have devised, like I think they still kind of messed up the seeding. I don't know how Clemson is ranked lower than SMU, the team that they just beat.
Clemson just beat
You know
SMU.
what I mean? Like that seems like they missed it. That's a small one. So how do you fix some of these things? We kind of mentioned it, right? Like conference titles. I do think I want conference championship games to matter. So I think conference titles should be automatic bids, but they should not be automatic buys. And so there's a big difference there. I think that you must play in a conference championship game in order to host a playoff game.
Yeah,
and that's going to
could be your reward. If you win your conference championship game, you get a home game.
You need to dangle a carrot.
Yeah,
right?
you get a home,
like
but you don't get a buy necessarily.
And it hurts teams like Notre Dame, where it's like, I mean, Notre Dame's a great team, but you got to play in these conference championship games, and I think you do treat conference championship games like any other game to a certain degree. I mean, you're weighing all of it, right? It's not as bad as maybe a regular season loss because you made it to that far, and it is one extra game. And then my last solution is you expand it to 24 teams. So there you go.
Okay.
Now you expand it, and I think everybody.
How about
wins.
16 would be beautiful. You had 16. You would have,
but then you have no buys, right?
But
so,
look at this. You'd have Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. How does that bracket look?
I'm good with that. Hey, I'm good with that.
That's a good-looking bracket.
I do like the reward of the bye.
Yes.
I think it's going to be super valuable. I think you'll see it because you're probably going to get some injuries here.
Georgia needs it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Georgia needs that bye.
They need to heal up, right?
Yeah.
So some of this, you blame, I think, on power conferences stacking, kind of devouring one another. The SEC is not, was realizing this year that though it's great to be the big dog, it also doesn't feel good to be eaten.
Right.
That's Alabama's kind of understanding that cannibalistic nature of what we've created and then the big money in these conferences. If we could go back into a time where the conferences were treated more as equals, then I think that a bracket like this would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's still amazing. The only problem is that we're turning into a caste system a little bit in college football rather than spreading it out. Regionality mattered and all that kind of stuff back in the day, and now not so much.
Well, can't you see this coming? SEC Commissioner Sankey is not happy to get only 3 teams in, so it looks like where we're headed is a system in probably 2 years when they redo the TV structure where you have 14 or 16 teams, but there are automatic bids for 4 for SEC, 4 for Big Ten. I think there will be guaranteed spots for those 2 conferences.
Yeah. Well, and, hopefully that slows down some of the moving from conferences to conferences and all that kind of stuff. So, anyway, not perfect, but I love it. I love it way better than a 4-team, 12-team. I'm here for it, and I'm going to be dialed into all of these. Coming up on the other side, we're going to be discussing one of the big bowl games, not one of the playoff games, but locally it is a very big bowl game with 2 of the biggest brands in college football, Alabama and Michigan. It is the ReliaQuest Bowl. We're going to be discussing it next on the NODPOD. Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. For many of you that have been a part of this podcasting journey for the last couple of years with us, you've known that, Chris and I have somewhat of a brotherly relationship. We do have a deep affection for one another, though sometimes it comes out in ways of backhanded compliments.
Certainly, a lot of that.
Exposing one another's many insecurities.
A lot of smack talking. Yeah.
A lot of smack talk when it comes to one another's deep affections for our teams, right? So,
yeah.
And for you, it is a deep love for the Crimson Tide, and none of that will stop. Let me just reassure everybody. We're going to continue to go at one another with rabid intensity. But when there's friendly fire or some foolish fire, then those things must be quickly addressed, and that we're going to take some time to do right now on the podcast, because earlier this week, during our 6 o'clock news, I made an offhand remark that I should not have made. I dismissed people's interest in your team, Alabama.
You did, yes. You were trying to take a shot at me.
I was trying to poke you, but of course, Alabama is playing in the ReliaQuest Bowl. And so we're going to address that because that game's right here, New Year's Eve in our own backyard. And so our guest on the podcast is Mike Schulze, Director of Communications and Sponsorship for the ReliaQuest Bowl. And Mike, I'm somewhat pleased that you're joining us over Zoom, so you can't throw anything at me, but publicly I think it is right to say I am sorry. I certainly did not mean it. I have deep respect for all that you guys have done and will continue to do with the bowl game in our area. and also the quality of teams. So let me just get that right out of the gates and issue my public apology to you and to those that you work with.
Well, I appreciate it, Scott, and I understand the banter back and forth. That's sort of the fun thing about sports, right? And certainly in college football, it's like the loyalties run deep, and that's what makes it so exciting with the rivalries and the competition and so forth. But at the end of the day, one of the things that sports does, I think at all levels, brings everybody together from all walks of life, and we can all sort of have fun with each other a little bit now and then.
Well, yeah. I appreciate that. And the added cruelty and the irony here is that I do believe that this is actually going to be a very good game. And I just couldn't see it because my eyes were so filled with rage toward Chris. But no, I absolutely think that, outside of our playoff games, Mike, I mean, this Alabama-Michigan, clash here on New Year's Eve, noon, right here in our own backyard. I mean, you're pitting two, obviously, teams that faced off last year in the semifinal. So there is that history. But on top of that, this added umbrella of this playoff, it leaves teams that were right on the doorstep, like in Alabama, out of the playoff mix. But you could make the argument that they could very well have, had they made it in, I mean, this could be a national championship type team.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, they're really good, and I think obviously, especially over the last week, right, a lot's been made about the strength of schedule and how good some of these teams are. I think anybody in the country can agree, and I actually grew up in the Midwest outside of Columbus, Ohio, back when Woody Hayes was the coach. So I'm a lot older than you guys, but the loyalty and the followers and traditions around college football are so deep, and these programs are great in and out every year. But certainly the SEC is, I mean, it's a gauntlet to go through there. I mean, I know Georgia, is coming off of two basically undefeated regular seasons, and when I saw the schedule at the beginning of the season, I'm like, well, there's no way Georgia's going to make it through, playing at Texas, at Alabama, at Ole Miss, and playing Tennessee among everybody else. I mean, you just can't do it. And of course, they end up with 2 losses, right? So, it's a tough road in the SEC, especially, and I think people recognize that. So, to circle back to your question, absolutely, Alabama is a quality team, and they had to face an awful lot this year. And but it's the way it goes. I mean, there's other teams that don't have maybe as strong as schedules or as deep as schedules as some of these teams. But it's really hard to figure that out when you're trying to find 12 teams to play in the playoff and so forth. So when they expand the playoff from 4 to 12, well, people used to complain when they were 5th or 6th, right? Well, there's a lot less difference between 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 than there were between 4 and 5 before. So you're going to have even more, people complaining about not getting in, and have justifications, because all these teams at that level could beat anybody on any given day.
Mike, let's talk about this matchup we have, though, in the ReliaQuest Bowl on December 31st at noon at Raymond James Stadium. Take us through the process of when the selection was made on Sunday and we knew who the 12 playoff teams were. How did that work behind the scenes? You guys knew you're getting a Big Ten and an SEC team. How does the grappling go behind the scenes there to decide who can we bring here to make the best matchup?
Well, it does. Obviously, the thing that's hard for us is that we have to try and project out ahead of time as best we can who is going to be available to us, right? Because as you mentioned, there's a lot of questions around the playoff, and as everybody knows, Alabama's right on the quote bubble to possibly get into the playoff, depending on what happened this past weekend. But once it was determined, that they were not in the playoff, then we work with the SEC as well as the Big Ten, to look at what teams are available to us and try and put together the best matchup we can in a lot of different ways, right? We want a matchup that's going to be exciting for people to want to watch on TV, because that gives us a lot more exposure. It gives our area a lot more exposure. We want one that's going to produce a matchup that people here locally are excited about. And I think this is certainly one that could do that no matter where you have it. So, and then of course, the aspect of, drawing fans to the community to create an economic impact and so forth and so on. So I think we definitely hit a home run with these two teams. And when we saw these two teams available, one of the things about these two programs, as you mentioned, their brands are so strong. They're two of the most iconic programs in the history of college football. In fact, these two teams, the first two times these teams ever played were in our bowl, back when we were the Hall of Fame Bowl,
really?
back in
Wow.
the late 80s and early 90s. But it's rare to get these teams together to play. They're, like I said, two most iconic names in college football. And to be able to match these guys together in our game is not only going to produce a lot more exposure for our bowl game, but for the community, that has their focus and attention on this game. And that's what, one of the reasons we're in existence, right, is to promote the area and bring a lot of folks here to town. So it's a win-win for everybody, regardless of who wins on the field.
I know that college football fans are never satisfied, and I'm one of those that has rooted for the playoff expansion to 12 teams and will continue to root for it to get a little bit bigger. If they do widen that net, I mean, is that something that you guys see as the ReliaQuest Bowl potentially becoming one of those teams that is hosting playoff games in years to come?
We really don't know. We really haven't tried to speculate on that because we just don't know what's around the corner. This system is in place for this year and next year, and then after next year, it's wide open. All the contracts with all the bowl games around the country are wide open at that point with conferences. We feel very good about our position with the Big Ten and Southeastern Conference, that they're going to want to continue to be a part of our game. Whether or not they expand the playoff a little bit more, I know there's been some talks about it. And how that goes is really up in the air. It's one of the things they're going to be working on over the this next off season, because one of the things they want to do is get 1 year under their belt under this new system, sort of see how it works. There's so many unanswered questions right now that the CFP folks have to figure out. Once they do that, then we'll take a look at whatever they offer us and whatever the situation is and see how we can be a part of it. But we know that regardless of what it'll be, this bowl game is considered one of the top games and top destinations in the country. The SEC and the Big Ten are really happy partners with us. So we know there's going to be a place for us, and we'll just sort of have to see what it looks like.
Mike, do you feel like you guys, though, have to work a bit harder in this era that we live in, where there's so much emphasis put on the bowl games that are part of the playoff system? I mean, there's no doubt about it that we certainly see for teams that are involved in bowl games that aren't part of the playoffs, we see it's happening now. The transfer portal is open. Players are opting out. Coaches are changing jobs. Does it get a bit tougher, though, to keep the buzz around these games alive? And maybe not so much for yours. It's easy to attract to Tampa, but for some of these other bowl games that are not part of the playoff system.
Yeah, I mean, it's different than it was, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and it was different than it was 10 years before that. When we started this game, there were only 16 bowl games. Now there's 44. So that's an issue in itself. But at the same time, there's other factors that are probably even more so. The playoff, certainly, there's a lot of focus on the playoff, and that's understandable. And I think it's going to be, terrific to watch. I'm going to watch all the games I can. But at the same time, the bowl experience is a different type of experience. And to give you an example, these teams that are going into the playoff, none of them are going to have a bowl experience, whether they're played in a, quote, bowl or not, or if they're played on campus. They're going to go in, it's going to be a road game for those first round games. They're going to go play a game, and then they're going to get ready for the next game after that. And then they're going to get ready for the next game after that. They're not going to spend a week in a destination like this. Getting to see and do other things around, the game itself. So they really aren't going to have that traditional bowl experience. The other part, as you mentioned, like with the opt-outs and all that, a lot of that really is more so from the standpoint of the transfer portal and being able to move around from team to team. And, I'm hopeful personally that at some point along the way, they're going to be able to reinstitute some type of limits on transfers.
Yeah, Mike, as you mentioned, I mean, some of that you're not going to get the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak. But there's no replacing the pageantry that comes with these college football bowl games. So as we get ready for this New Year's Eve tilt, obviously we have a ton of Michigan and Alabama fans that already live in the area, but of course many, especially from up north, are going to be coming down here to try to escape some of that cold weather. So when it comes to the schedule of the week and what you guys have in store and planned, as well as ticket information, where should we send our viewers?
Well, information-wise, the best way to find that is on our website at ReliaQuestBowl.com. And then, of course, our social media platforms. We're very heavily involved in Instagram, Facebook, and the X platform. And you'll be able to follow, not only see what's coming up and what's going on, but you'll be able to follow along with the teams when they come to town. As far as tickets, Ticketmaster is the way to go. Tickets are available on there, and we have, tickets have been moving very, very fast. But we also have plenty of good seats left, and that's the way to find the tickets. And I would definitely encourage people to get tickets sooner than later to get the best seats. And then finally, the event schedule, which again is on our website. We have a lot of fun events for not only the teams, but also the community here locally, and all the visitors that are coming to town. So it's going to be a fun week.
Well, we are looking forward to it. He is Mike Schulze with the ReliaQuest Bowl coming your way New Year's Eve, noon kickoff at Raymond James Stadium. Mike, thanks for jumping on with us.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you down the road.
Sounds good. Coming up on the other side, it is time to do some game picks. Chris, are you ready?
I think so.
We're jumping into the NFL this week.
It's the NFL? Okay.
That's
right.
right.
Let me make some adjustments here.
All NFL games. I know. It's a bit of an adjustment for you. NODPOD next. We welcome back in. I think at the second time we can call him a friend of the show. Indeed, he is. Dave Ross from VSiN Network. You can catch him weekdays, Lombardi Line, 8 to 10 a.m. on the VSiN Network. Dave, thanks for joining us, friend of the show.
Boys, it's always good to be back with you. And, Scotty, with our history, when did we first meet? Is it 20 years now? Has it been literally 2 decades?
It has not been 20 years, no.
I bet you it's close.
That hair was a lot less gray. I know that.
Yeah, I didn't have any gray back then, that's for sure.
Well, I'm starting to catch up real quick, my friend. All right,
you'll get there. You're turning the corner.
I know. Trust me. When it starts, it starts, right? All right, let's jump into these games. We got some good ones this week around the NFL. Let's start with the Battle of Pennsylvania. Steelers paying a visit to those Eagles. Eagles 4.5-point favorites at home. A 425 kick. Dave, who you like?
Okay, I don't like the fact that it looks like the Steelers are going to be without George Pickens for a second straight week. Obviously, he's their big play guy down the field for them. But if you saw last week against Cleveland, and you go into the numbers a little bit, they got out-yardaged a little bit by Cleveland, but they forced those turnovers. They don't turn it over themselves, which is something we couldn't say about Russell Wilson 2.0, at least in Denver, but 3.0 in Pittsburgh. He's done a really good job of taking care of the football. I got to tell you, fellas, if they don't turn it over against Philly, I'd much rather be taking those 4.5, 5 points out there than I would be laying it with Philly, because as good as Philly's run game is, and Saquon Barkley, you can make the case for MVP, their passing game has been equally as bad. So I think this is going to be a typical Philadelphia knockdown, drag out, city of brotherly shove type game here. And whoever gets the last shove in might win this thing. But I think it's a one-score game, so I'd rather be on the 4.5, 5 points with Pittsburgh. And I do think they're on par with the Eagles, and I don't see any reason why they can't win this game outright. So give me the points here with the Steelers. I think they're going to win this division, which would be a massive upset if you go back to the beginning of the year. Everybody liked the Bengals, or they liked the Ravens to do it again. Nobody was talking about Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Dave knows this. Steelers 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 games. All they do is either win or play very close. In this Battle of Pennsylvania here, now the Eagles have won the last 10 games at the Eagles' home field. So I think it's going to be a close one here. You're very right about the Eagles' passing offense. We have this rift now between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, whatever's going on there. I like the Steelers' run defense to bottle up Saquon just enough. The Steelers have a good run defense, averaging giving up about 4 yards a carry to keep it close. I think the Eagles win, but it's within that 4.5 there, so I'll take the Steelers with the points.
I believe when you said something about playing at the Eagles' home field, which is is the length, right?
It is, yes.
And that's what you were trying to say. But the more impressive stat is it has been 59 years since the Steelers have won a game in Philadelphia. How about that? 59 years.
Yes.
That's remarkable.
Wait a minute, boys. This year, Mike Tomlin is 5-0 straight up as a dog. You haven't even needed the points. They've won every single game of those straight up as a dog.
See, he
That's
knows
how good
this.
Tomlin. He's an autoplay, boys. He's an autoplay as a dog this year. Right now, Mike Tomlin. And I'll tell you the other thing too about that, like the friction there with Jalen Hurts. You guys know what they do to Derrick Henry, or at least what they did in Game 1 against Baltimore. They're going to play that single high safety, right? Get an extra guy in the box, challenge you to beat them over the top. Lamar Jackson couldn't do it. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to do it. They're going to stop 26, slow them down, dare them to throw the football, and that's where the Steelers thrive.
Okay. Did he change your mind there,
no,
Scott?
I have a hard time seeing that. Especially, my main concern is that I think what we're not talking about is Pittsburgh's ability to move the ball in this Philly defense. And I think that's going to be a problem, especially without Pickens, as you mentioned. And for that reason, I gotta lean towards Philly at home. I think they're going to cover. All right, let's jump into the second one. Bucks take a visit out west to L.A. to face those Chargers at SoFi. The Chargers 3 points, straight up 3 points favorites against those Buccaneers. What do you think, Dave?
Well, Scott, you guys got the scoop down there in Tampa. Is
do.
Baker Mayfield going to play on one leg? Like, how is he doing this? Like, the dude somehow, he's like RoboCop out there. Every body part seems to be dinged up on Baker, and yet he goes out there a couple weeks ago against Carolina, figures out a way. They're turning it over back and forth with the Raiders. Every other play last week, it seemed like there for a while, and it got ugly for a little bit, and then they get the late score and pull away. I love the resiliency of the Bucs down there. Certainly, I feel like they now feel like they have a command of a really bad division down in the NFC South. But this is Harbs. Like, we know Harbs. This is the way he wins football games. They are just so ugly. And it was ugly last week against Kansas City. They almost got be the beneficiaries of a doink off a crossbar or the upright, but yet that somehow goes in for Kansas City to wrap up the division. I don't think this is a game the Chargers lose. I think they figure out a way to turn it over. It'll be low scoring. That's the way it always is with the Chargers. So normally I don't like to lay the 3 in a low scoring game, but I do think the Charger defense will still be the best of the units on the field. Give me the Chargers. In Harbaugh, I trust. I think they figure out a way to get back in the win column.
Uh-oh. Dave and I have to part ways here. Dave, the Bucs have made money. If I gambled on this, the last 3 weeks I've ridden with the Bucs and they just keep cashing. It's the running game. You mentioned Baker, which is good, but it's the running game here, Dave. It's so physical. Bucky Irving was a little dinged up, but even so, I think he's going to be okay. Rashad White running. The last 3 games they've won, Dave, averaging over 180 yards a game. I think they can move on this Chargers defense too, and the Chargers on offense do not impress me. I keep waiting for Justin Herbert to be elite. Everyone tells me he's elite. He looks like an elite quarterback, but yet he can't come up big in any of these games here, and J.K. Dobbins being hurt really hurts a lot. Bucs, give me the Bucs.
Well, I don't know. Elite, he has 1 interception all season long. I mean, this Charger offense doesn't turn the ball over. This is part of the issue, is that this Bucs defense is beaten up. They're lean at interior linebacker. They're lean in the back end. They're how many safeties have they lost? This is the problem. It's not Baker and his will to. He's got plenty of that. And I think he has enough weapons to get it done. We've seen them play, really good teams, and they play them tough. It's the fact that this defense there's a bite getting taken out of them each and every week. And I'm concerned that they're not going to be able to hold it against LA. So this was the one game down the stretch that you thought, okay, they're probably going to lose to the Chargers and they can win out and still win this division. And I think that probably holds true. So because I'm concerned about that Bucs defense on the road, I'm going to take the Chargers to win. All right, Bills at Lions. Are we looking at a Super Bowl preview? The Lions 1.5-point favorites at Ford Field on Sunday.
Scotty, I'm so perplexed, and I've talked about it this week so far with Michael Lombardi, shameless plug. I don't understand the line move. I don't know why this is going down towards
Where did it
closer
start?
to a pick 2.5, 3.
Okay.
And the Bills are taking the money here, boys, and it's down to 1.5, as you mentioned. And Scotty, while it's almost counterintuitive, I'm going to follow the line move, and I'm going to back the Bills here in this spot in Detroit. Detroit's I hate to do it to you, Scotty, because I know where you're from, and I know where your allegiances are. You don't have to admit them if you don't want to. But I know that the issues eventually with Anzalone being out, With Hutchinson's not walking through that door, they really are walking wounded defensively. So, Dan Campbell, the strategy is going to be, can we run Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and keep Josh Allen off the field? That's the best strategy. But I think the Bills scored 42 points, 6 offensive touchdowns, and the time of possession was just over 20 minutes. I mean, that's stunning, and somehow they still lost the game. So to me, if Detroit can't do what the Rams did, which is almost 40-20 in time of possession, and they won by 3, think of that, gents. I don't think Detroit can do that the same method that the Rams did a week ago. Josh Allen actually missed some plays early in the game. I know it seems unbelievable with his 6 touchdown performance, 3 on the ground, 3 through the air. I'm going to trust that they're going to be a little bit better defensively than they were against the Rams last week. Give me the Buffalo Bills, man, on the road. I feel like the Lions have been on borrowed time against the Bears, borrowed time against the Packers. I think the Bills are going to be the team that gets it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to roll with the other quarterback in this one who has like a 1,000 QBR at home this year, best home QBR in the NFL. I mean, yeah, Josh Allen is great. He is scary, but the Rams defense is so bad. I know the Lions defense is beat up a bit, but I think they can do more. And what you said there is very true. It's about keeping Allen in that offense off the field. I know you dig into all these metrics, Dave, so I'm saying things here you already know, but the Bills have one of the worst third down defenses in the league, and the Lions are one of the top 3 in third down conversions on offense. And Dan Campbell, it's 4th and 2. Dan, what are you gonna do? You're on your own 25. Are you gonna? I'm gonna go. I'm telling you, the Lions are going to keep churning out first downs, do just enough to keep the Bills off the field, and I'm going with the Lions in this one. I love that spread has moved down to 1.5. This is like free money for Cato here.
Well, not only that, but it's also locker room banter for Dan Campbell, who's the ultimate motivator. I think that he looks at this as, hey, they're picking against you guys on your home turf. How much disrespect can you possibly imagine against this Lions team that has done nothing but prove doubters wrong all year long, and for the last couple of years, in fact. I see the Bills, but I kind of see them as a bit of a one-trick pony. I mean, we saw that last week in terms of, like, Josh Allen could produce all these big numbers, yet you still lose. And I don't know. I just think that the Lions are a multifaceted offense that they can come and get you any number of ways. Defense a little bit beat up right now, but I'm going to stick with those Lions and the fighting Dan Campbell's to get the win.
I think you guys are onto something that if you look back on Monday and just look at the Lions, how many times they go for it on 4th down, because the Rams did that too, and the Bills couldn't get them off the field, right? So if Campbell does that when Dan Campbell does that strategy, if the Bills can't limit that to, say, 50%, let's say it goes for it 4 times, if it's 2 or less, Bills win. If it's 2 or more, Lions win. I think that's how close this game really is.
Yeah, I like that. Nice nugget. All right. We got Packers paying a visit out to the Northwest, taking on those Seahawks. Packers 3-point road favorites. How you see it, Dave?
Everybody keeps betting against Seattle. And I've been printing money on the Seahawks the last 3 weeks. Matter of fact, I took them. They've beaten the Cardinals 2 of the last 3 weeks, and in the middle of that was a road win against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And I took Seattle before they begin the stretch after they'd beaten San Francisco, and they were a game back of Arizona, and they were 6-1 to win the division at that point. Now they're odds on minus $1.15 to win the division. So I've got some intrinsic value in that bet from just 3 weeks ago. I'm going to keep riding the Seahawks train till it falls off, and I don't think it falls off here. Packers are good. They really are. Jordan Love, though, has not been great. He's been better in this stretch down the year, kind of like he flipped the switch this time last year. I don't know if he keeps that going in the Pacific Northwest, because even when he flipped the switch last year, if you remember, on primetime, they went and lost to Tommy DeVito last year, this time against Green Bay. Back here again, Sunday Night Football, primetime, on the road. It's going to be cold again, probably going to be a little drizzly out there. I think a Jordan Love turnover or 2 is going to happen, and let's not mistake Geno Smith for what he's done here down the stretch. He's played impeccable football. Charbonnet's run the football pretty darn well with Kenneth Walker out of there. Pretty good defense on Seattle's side here. I'm getting 3 points. Not going to need them. Seattle wins the game outright.
Well, I think we can all agree on this. We're looking most forward to this game because it's Sunday Night Football. It's at Seattle, and every time a broadcast like that happens, the bump music going in and out of commercial is Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. Yep. So we're getting that, and that's what I'm looking forward to. All right, I'm going. I'll cut it short. I'm going Seahawks. I like the way Their defense has been trending the last few weeks. I do agree that Jordan Love has struggled on the road. I'm going to go Seahawks on this one, covering they're getting 3. They're catching 3. Oh, that's free money.
How about that?
That's great.
I like this sleepy Seahawks team, and the fact that, they're really good on the road, too. I mean, that builds up a little bit of toughness. People aren't talking about them as much. Geno and that offense, they throw the ball around a little bit, and I think that might be one of the weaknesses for Green Bay. So, give me the Seahawks to win a little home upset. All right, Monday Night Football. We got a doubleheader, but we're going to take the one that has more division implications out here for us. The Falcons paying a visit to your neck of the woods, taking on those Vegas Raiders. And the Falcons, I don't know where they're getting wins, but they're favored to win this one by 4.5. What say you, Dave?
Seems a little bit high, doesn't it, for the Falcons these days with, you're right, Kirk Cousins, this 4-game
That's our guy. You like that.
We love him. We covered him in D.C. Great guy. Was always on that couch. Remember, Scotty? Always deep in that book studying away. It worked in Minnesota. I don't know if he's got the same book that Raheem had when they were together back in those D.C. days, very briefly back in 2012, 2013. I think it's too much delay in the road. I know Kirk is 0 touchdowns, 8 picks in this 4-game losing streak. That's got to come to an end against the Raiders. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell looked like he was dead man walking Sean Penn, and then all of a sudden today it looks, hey, it might just be a bone bruise. I'm going to try to go on Monday night. Maybe you want to get Desmond Ridder in there and have the revenge game for Desmond, the former Falcon. I don't know that it matters too much who the quarterback is for the Raiders. They've got to be able to run the ball in order for them to win. Max Crosby's got to create turnovers on the left side of that defensive line, wreak havoc for Kirk, who just can't move back there, guys. Father Time's undefeated. I think we're seeing it with Kirk off that bad Achilles a year ago. He's just not mobile. And when you hit him once, like Minnesota did last week, even though the Falcons led 7-0, he was never the same guy after that opening drive for Atlanta. I could see that. Maybe Atlanta ekes out a win, but there's no way I'm laying 4.5 points on the road with this team. Give me the Raiders. They've lost 9 straight games. I don't remember the Raiders being sick 9 straight times. They have been. It's been disgusting, but I think this is their best chance to win now. Give me the Raiders plus the 4.5.
Oh, boy. Do we have to pick this game? I don't know. I guess I hate to do this. The Falcons have played a gauntlet lately, right? They've played some 4 really good defenses in a row. Finally here they get to play a bad defense. I hate to do this to Kirk, but his statutory in the pocket. Max Crosby's going to take him out. We're going to see Michael Penix take over and lead the Falcons to a win and cover the points. The Falcons win and cover.
I like the first part of that movie, and I think it does play out. I think we start to see that baton handoff to the Penix era, but I don't think it results in a win out west. I do think he sees shadows of Max Crosby, and you know what? Kalijah Cansey. He might have shoved Aiden O'Connell last week. This week, they're sending him a get well card and get well very soon.
Might have shoved.
Might have. It was kind of a love tap, Dave. You saw.
There
I think he tripped over a blade of grass or something. But either way, they want O'Connell to feel much better, and I think the Raiders get it done against the Falcons. This Falcons team. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I'm picking them.
Wheels
I'm rolling with the
have
Falcons.
fallen off. All right, there you have it. He is Dave Ross, and you can catch him weekdays 8 to 10 a.m. on the VSiN network with the Lombardi line. Dave knows how to pick them, and we'll see. We'll see if he's right this time. The one thing he doesn't know how to pick. 90s grunge rock.
Bands, yes.
He's just a little off. Just a little.
I'll be watching the Sunday night game and listening more intently for exactly that, the bump music by NBC. And again, everybody out there listening, remember, pecking order. Nirvana, then Soundgarden, then Pearl Jam's like 4th. I'll throw Soundgarden if they still constitute a little bit later.
The first break will be Alive.
Chris Cornell,
and then I think number 3 we'll see. Lithium will be in there at some point, but it's going to be
Alice in Chains. I don't care. All of them above Pearl Jam.
Throw them all in there. All right,
Dave
that's
Ross.
awesome. Thanks, Dave.
We could go for 20 more minutes on this mindless topic, and we won't. All right, coming up on the other side, another mindless topic. It's time to discuss our favorite Christmas movie, Christmas Vacation. It is Christmas Vacation trivia. BK joins us back on the NODPOD.
I can't wait.
I got to admit, I'm as excited about this game as any that we've ever played. Brian set this up off the top of the show, and this is just, it sounds like an amazing game that you've invented, Brian. It is Christmas Vacation trivia.
I love it. Yeah.
You ready?
Well, I got 15 questions instead of having both of you kind of buzz in or whatever, trying to talk over each other. I thought it'd be good for one of you to leave to our silent chamber where you can't hear anything.
Okay. Chamber of silence.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Then the other person that stays will get these questions. They're 15 questions or 40 seconds. So we're going to rapid
40
fire.
total
Whoa.
seconds.
40 total seconds. So we're going to run through each
Wow,
thing.
that's barely over 2 seconds. How fast are you asking these questions?
Yeah.
Well-
Are we sure that the time is good?
Mariah will be the judge. She's the timekeeper.
I mean,
and,
should we maybe bump it up to like a minute?
No, he said he tested this on director Chris. And
yeah, he ran through it pretty
But
quick.
did you go a time on him?
We went pretty quick, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know.
pretty
We
quick.
didn't have it 40 seconds. 40 seconds is good. That's
All right.
Okay.
You
All
want
right. You
45 seconds?
You want to leave first?
Let's go 47 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll leave.
All right. Chamber of silence for you.
Where's the block?
Come on, brain. When was the last time I watched Christmas Vacation? Let's go.
okay. You let me know when you're ready.
Throw it. Let's go. Start the clock.
Which city did the Griswolds live near?
Chicago.
Correct. What does Clark forget to take when they go to cut the tree?
The shears.
Salt. Incorrect. What does Clark's boss give him as a Christmas bonus?
Oh, the jelly of the month.
Correct. How many Christmas lights does Clark have on his house?
Pass.
Who figures out why the lights were not working?
Russ.
Ellen, the wife. Incorrect. What song does Clark sing when he's trying to turn on the lights?
Joy to the world.
Correct. What kind of sled does Clark use?
What kind of sled?
Yes.
Pass.
2, 1.
What does Clark end up
Eggnog.
after the sled? Well, let me give you this because I stumbled on one. Where does Clark end up after the sled race? After that sled ride he takes?
At the bottom of a ditch.
Okay, at Walmart.
Okay.
So how many did you get correct? You got a bunch of everything.
3? I thought I got more than 3.
3.
All right.
How'd you do?
I smoked it.
Did you
I
really?
smoked it, yeah. Well, let me tell you, though, this time goes by fast, buddy. So
Can we make Chris leave?
Not Chris.
Nope, I already know the questions.
I know, but I just kind of want him to leave.
Oh, dang it. Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, it's fine. You can stay. All right, let's do it.
Which city do the Griswolds live near?
Chicago.
Correct. What does Clark forget to take when they go to cut the tree?
I saw.
Correct. What does Clark's boss give him as a Christmas bonus?
Jelly of the month.
Correct. How many Christmas lights are on the house?
Oh gosh, 1,420.
Incorrect. Who figures out why the lights were not working?
It was his wife that flipped
Correct.
the switch on.
What song does Clark sing when he's turning on the lights?
Joy to the world.
What kind of sled? Correct. What kind of sled does Clark use?
A metal one.
Salsa one.
Yeah.
We'll give you that. Where does Clark end up after he goes down the sled?
In the freeway.
Man.
You got me.
So how many was that?
What? Give me the rest of them.
Okay, y'all both play. Instead of grace, what does Aunt Bethany say at the dinner table?
The Pledge of Allegiance.
Which is so funny.
What does Aunt Bethany add to her green Jell-O salad?
Cat food.
What does Eddie put in his wine glass during the Christmas Eve dinner?
Eggnog.
Eggnog.
Beer.
Oh.
Okay.
Who chokes on the bone during the dinner?
The dog.
Yeah.
Snot's a dog. How did Ruby Sue's eyes go crossed?
She got kicked by a horse or
Oh,
something
a
like
cow, right?
Incorrect. She fell in a well.
Oh, okay.
How did Ruby's eyes get uncrossed?
Got kicked by a cow.
Got kicked by a mule.
Oh.
Why doesn't Eddie go sledding?
I don't know.
It chafes him.
He's afraid that if he got hit in the head, it'll put a dent in his head and it makes his hair look funny.
The middle plate.
Okay, I got some super tough ones. Real quick.
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
These are going to be the tiebreakers. What rock poster is above Audrey's bed? What band?
Led Zeppelin.
Def Leppard.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh.
What are the last words of the movie?
A good night.
Merry Christmas.
I did it.
I did it. Okay.
Who are the last two characters seen in the movie? Give you a hint. It was during the closing credits.
I think it's probably Eddie and the dog. No?
Cato?
I'm going to go with Russ and Audrey.
It was Clark and Snots.
Okay.
What date does the movie end?
What date?
Yeah.
December 26th.
Let's go New Year's Day, January 1st.
Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Does
It
It
ends on Christmas Eve.
They're
Really?
eating Christmas Eve dinner.
I need to watch this movie again, clearly.
My goodness. Can you name the brand of dog food that they got at the store? I'm pretty sure it's Old Roy.
Old Roy is it?
Okay, yeah, which is a real brand.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's a real brand.
Good job, man.
Yeah.
Those
Man,
are
I'm
good questions.
impressed.
Good questions.
What was the final score? How many did you get, Scott?
I got them
I
all,
think
didn't
you got
I?
5, and I got 3.
5-3. That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Should have had Chris
think-
Griffin out there. I mean,
Chris
he's got
Griffin
the
was
whole
the
thing.
guy.
Chris toast us?
He got them all but the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Christmas. So how many Christmas lights
what is
were
the
there?
Christmas lights?
25,000.
Okay.
Because he had 250 strings of lights on the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said pass on that one.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Thanks
I
a lot,
need to watch
guys.
that movie again.
Absolutely. Oh man, there's so many classic lines in that movie. I could watch it every Christmas, and I do. Although you realize that though it's funny, and I watched it at a young age. As I have young kids now, I'm like, no, this is probably inappropriate.
Right. Yeah.
Not probably, it is.
Yeah. Let's let them watch it later.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
parents raised me wrong. That's for sure. All right. Very good. Thanks, BK. That
Thanks,
was a lot
guys.
of fun. Big thanks to our guests. So Mike Schulze from ReliaQuest Bowl. We had Dave Ross from VSiN, host of the Lombardi Line. And much thanks to our studio crew. We got Mariah on the jib. We got Chris on the ones and two. Apparently, he is a Christmas vacation savant. We're going to have to debate this out in the hallways. Much thanks to BK. For Chris, I'm Scott. Until the next time we're on, there are no off days.
Can't wait to pick playoff games.
I know.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming, baby.